And hello, Burke.
What is up?
Oh my goodness. So all my show, I need to do, this is not a tutorial. This is live coding today. We are actually doing some fun live coding business. I filled out the form and all my other shows start at 10 a.m. And so I put in 10 a.m. Pacific. And so we're starting a half hour later. So,
close enough.
Yeah. I have been doing some fun OpenAI coding stuff this week. I was inspired by your social assistant stuff.
Oh yeah, you've been working on trying to increase the token.
Yeah. Yep. So so that was fun. I got because I want to summarize our community stand-ups, and they're like 75 minutes, so it's like pretty darn long. And so yeah, you need like a longer token length. And then I wrote like some custom prompt stuff to say very specific for what I wanted for my blog post, which was kind of neat. So
what's up from Brazil? Yeah, that's pretty cool. John, do we want to show people like what? I don't think we've ever showed that tool before.
Sure. Do you want to show it? Because you're like,
yeah, I can show it. Let me get my window to an appropriate size because I got this wide monitor. You know how it is.
Yeah. Hey, Brazil.
That's probably okay.
Oh, or I could show it too if you want.
I got it. I'm presenting. Just because I don't know, maybe people will be interested in this.
It's super cool. James has been going to town with it because we have a bunch of short videos. And he's like, these should be blog posts. Okay, yeah. Tell me when you're ready to share.
Almost. 1 second. Not quite. I can share.
Oh, share?
Yep, go for it.
All right.
So Inception, yeah. So it's the site that John's working on is this.
Oh, I didn't know you had the social site.
Yeah, there's an AK. For those watching, AKA is like our internal link shortener. It's not just internal. Right.
It's for, I mean, yeah, you can only use it, like only Microsoft employees can create AKAMS links. But yeah, it's super handy.
Although, what's it doing?
That's a good, there it is.
Is it not loading anymore? What?
Maybe your AKMS is wrong.
Well, now I'm curious because I don't even know the URL of that thing. All I know is the short link I made.
Let me see. I may have.
I can find it here. Let's see here.
Orange Cliff.
Orange Cliff.
Yeah, here.
There it is. I think I found it. I think my AKA got deleted.
Oh,
mean.
Oh, there it is. Okay. Yeah.
Here it is. Yeah. So the way that this works, chat, is that So like we should get a, let's go over to YouTube here. Yeah, our watch history is off. I'm trying to think, like, let's grab a Fireship video.
Yeah, there you go.
So what is the CES? A glimpse into the AI powered future. Okay, so he went to CES.
Wow, we got all over the world. We got 2 people from Brazil. We got South Africa. We got Bangladesh.
So what you can do with this site is you set the source to the YouTube video, and if you look at it, it's pulling in the captions, and then you can do things with it. Like you could do, you can get insights, right? So it's just a tool that we use for our own content. Like you can see here, what does he got? CES, Python. It basically just analyzes blog posts and videos, but we use it for stuff like, it can also do, one of the ways my team uses it is for this right here, right? So let's say we'll write Fireship a new video title and description, right? But it does the description and then it does the time markers for you because it knows this. So anyway, John, what is the problem with this thing though?
Oh, well, so the thing I ran into is that our ASP.NET community stand-ups are at least an hour, but some of them are like an hour and 15 minutes or something. So it's just how many tokens you get, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
So, and I don't think there's any, like what I saw when I looked into it, like you can, number one, you can somehow get a larger model. And there's some like directly on OpenAI API that have some bigger models with more tokens. Learned all about tokens this week. That was fun. And then also, I have seen some people have gotten around it by like batching stuff. So, but it's a little complicated because I want to write a summary blog post of the entire video.
Right.
And so it's like, how do you batch those requests? You know, because I would have to like say like these timestamps are for segment 1 and these, you know, and it like doesn't have the whole context. So.
Yeah. So you got it. So what are you doing? You found a solution here, kind of.
Well, the solution I had was directly hit the Open API. It's on my other machine, but the Open API, OpenAI API. You can. There's a preview of GPT-4 that's like 128K tokens instead of 16K.
Yeah. So what is that? It's 1632, 40. 64, 4 times larger.
Yeah,
so 4x increase in token size over 16K is what it currently is.
Yeah,
GPT-3.5 Turbo.
Yeah.
And also, John, if you could get it to use GPT-4 or 4 Turbo, even better, we get better answers.
Yeah. I was stunned at how good the thing was. Like there was, if you read the transcript, it's kind of rambling. We kind of went all over the place, like, and there's a community link section at the beginning. And I like in my prompt, I'm like, ignore community link section, you know, start your blog post when the guests start talking, group, you know, write section headers and group, you know, summarize the different sections. And it totally did. Like everything was just,
yeah.
It was like, this would have taken me an hour just to write this post, you know?
Yeah, exactly. That's awesome. I hope you could get that to work. I don't think though that we offer, like when I looked at the models that we have on Azure OpenAI, I don't see a 4 and I don't see a 4 Turbo.
Yeah, it does. There's like a delay. So yeah, there is. So
maybe, yeah, I think we just don't have access. If we do have it, we just don't have access, which would not be unusual, right? Like just because you work at Microsoft doesn't mean you just get these things willy-nilly, right? Even like I had no access to Azure OpenAI. I had to get someone on our infrastructure team here to like provision me share their provisioned.
Yeah, you know, a lot of the time it's the opposite. Like people would think, oh, you're at Microsoft, you get an early access, and sometimes we're deprioritized because we want to make sure people are.
We get it last.
Yeah,
we get it last, and I think people also think that like you have unlimited Azure. And like that just isn't true.
Nope.
We have these little subscriptions that we can use to like test stuff out, but it just gets blown away it's like you can't actually host anything there, right? We used to have, so when I first started, they had this like CDA global demos subscription that you could use that was like never going away. And then they just locked that thing down and sent a notice and we're like, we're deleting anything that you don't respond to.
Yeah.
30 days.
So,
Anyway.
I mean, like good citizen behavior is to put a tag on a resource with the owner alias or whatever, but a lot of time they don't. And then people are just kind of like, oh my gosh, hey, everybody, we need to go through and delete stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, we go through these cleanups from time to time. All right, chat. Okay. What's up? Wayne is here from South Africa. What's up, Wayne?
Nice.
I can attempt to do a South African accent.
Okay.
Wayne from South Africa.
That's
Wayne. How was that?
Yeah, got to hear about that.
I don't feel like it was that bad. That's all I can say, though. Oh, he's XMSFTE. What's up, Wayne?
All right. Cool. So Jay is asking a question which I don't know about. ARR tokens. ARR affinity site. So I know slightly about this. I don't know. Do you know much about this?
Nope.
Okay. ARR, I forget what it stands for, but it basically same site cookies causes you to get routed back to the same. It depends on the hosting and it depends on the site, but some websites, they shouldn't be, but some websites are built so that you need to keep on the same server between requests. And when you scale out, you can have multiple servers serving, so you may go to server A for the first request, you post the form back, and now you're on server B, right? And then you click on a link and now you're on server C. And some best practice is not to assume you're always on the same server, but it was kind of an older thing where people just be like, oh, we've got a session that's maintained on the server. So it's probably not important. It kind of depends. Like older websites would just kind of have like a little ID token or whatever in a cookie and assume you're always on the same server. But that's a bad practice because servers can go offline or you can scale out or whatever. So it's probably not a problem.
Sounds complicated.
Yeah. What's
up, Brazil is here. Kenya, my coffee mug has a light. It does. Look at this. Nice. File this under unnecessary technology.
Wow. It's like it maintains the temperature or something?
Yeah, it keeps the coffee hot, but it will keep it warm. But if you try to use it to warm the coffee up to a certain temperature, it just drains the battery. But my son was pointing out, he was like, you do realize, my older son, so one of my sons bought it as a Christmas present. My older son was like, this is the most gratuitous waste of energy. He's like, you're just running a battery to create heat. Like, that's it. Like, it's terrible. That's
nice.
All right.
By the way, I am pressing coffee in my AeroPress now as we speak.
Oof, that is very...
Yeah. Do you know about the AeroPress thing?
No, it sounds a little snobby. I'm going to be honest.
It's like a French press. So the bottom section, you put your coffee in and then you just push it down. It's like a plunger.
Yes, but I buy like Maxwell House at Kroger.
Oh, okay then.
That's where we are.
Not apply to you.
That's the difference between you and me, right? I go in, listen, I'm the kind of guy that goes into Whole Foods, looks around and goes, I do not belong here. In fact, I even have to be like, excuse me, sir, Kroger's across the street. Please leave.
Yep. So I even have I don't know if this is, I'm not used to this view. This is like a special espresso thing, an adapter for it. It makes pretty good coffee. So yeah.
We just put hot water and grounds. And you just.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Makes the coffee happen. Okay. We got some questions going on. Is OpenAI on Azure like having a private chat GPT? So you could create that, but it's basically chat GPT is what OpenAI is what powers chat GPT, I guess. Like chat GPT is a consumer thing where you can basically chat with it and it'll give you answers. And then OpenAI is the APIs you can build AI stuff on top of. But we've done some demos. We have some code and stuff where you can you can do that. So basically, like this demo that we've done, like at Build, and I think they did. I think they may have used it again at .NET Conf. But basically, it's like a website where you just upload a bunch of PDFs, and then you essentially index them. You create embeddings or whatever, and then you
Azure Search.
Yeah, it uses Azure Search underneath, and then you basically can then search through. What's nice with this demo is you upload a bunch of HR PDFs. It's like hundreds of pages of like coverage and stuff. And then you can ask it questions of like, am I covered for dental surgery or stuff like that. So it's pretty neat because it understands, and it's like real valuable search. You know what I mean? It like answers hard questions.
I think Robson's asking the question like everybody will ask at some point, which is like, ChatGPT, cool. How can I ask it questions about my data? Yeah. And the answer is that you have to give it your data. And the way that you do that, because, token links are limited, as we discussed, and you might have gigs and gigs and gigs of data. So then what do you do? So then you use this strategy called vector indexing, where the model basically queries your data to get just what it needs to answer the question. And you can set all this up with OpenAI, but the point of having Azure OpenAI is that it's inside of Azure. So your resources can all talk to each other inside of the VNet, right? They have integrations together. It's not like you couldn't do that with OpenAI. You could. Azure OpenAI just brings it in and makes it part of your cloud resources.
Yeah, and like vector databases and indexing and all that stuff is a little bit complex to set up, whereas saying Azure Search on the back end is relatively easy, and you can just say like Azure Search, go like figure this out.
Yeah, it's just easy to glue those things together, easier in Azure. Okay, cool. John,
we should do some stuff.
We should do some stuff because we're so close.
Yeah. Well, so let me start by sharing exactly what we're doing. Okay, so this is the site, the URL list. It was originally built with Vue and Bulma and Azure Storage and Azure Front Door and Azure Functions back before static web apps was really like a thing. And so now we're kind of redoing this using static web apps and Blazor. And we're learning a ton of stuff. This is called Burke Learns Blazor, but I'm learning a ton of stuff about Blazor as well. And it's so what this site does is allow you to like log in. Part of what we did, the original site only had Twitter auth. Twitter is an interesting place these days, and their APIs are more
unreliable is the word you're looking for.
Unreliable, yes. So now this allows like logging in with multiple providers. I'm not sure what. So then now I'm logged in with Google on our cool new implementation, and then I can go into my lists, of which I don't have any, and I can create lists and all that. So that's where we're at. And this is we have a project plan. And like you're saying, yeah, we've gone through and we've done a lot of stuff, and we're down to some kind of wrap up on the API. I do want to show one thing, which I think is it's just like a check-in on this thing. I did look more at .NET 8 because I really want to get on .NET 8. There's some really cool things. This is the spot I'm up to is we're getting some last little errors on like the JS interop and trimming and stuff that we're not sure about. But what I did find out is if I go to here, okay, so this is our currently like our current code using .NET 7. And what I've been doing, the easy way that I believe to check on file size is to just bring up browser tools in an in private window. And then I can download it, or I can hit the site, and I go to the network tab, and I've got, I don't know if this is easy to see, 2.5 megabytes transferred, 7.4 megabyte of resources. There's like Brotli compression. There's other just stuff.
Yeah, that's what it was coming down the wire was 2.5. Yeah. And when it got expanded in the browser, it was 7.4.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think honestly, I mean, the only real number that matters is this 2.5. Like if it's fast enough on loading, I mean, you don't want a huge download, because that's more to like parse or whatever. But like the main thing is like how is the download time.
Yeah.
Hey,
2.5
Sean,
megs slot. Are we using the old Blazor WASM? We are not using interactive mode because we can't.
because we can't, and the reason is because we're running on static web apps. Static web apps is there's so the new .NET 8 thing is .NET 8 Blazor relies on a server on the back end. And what's cool with that is it gets kind of the benefits of Blazor server and Blazor WebAssembly. They're just calling it like this is Blazor now. What it does is it can server side render. Your first page hit is really fast, and then in the background over WebSockets, it sends down the WebAssembly to you, which is pretty neat. Yeah. What UI is being used for login? It's a custom UI that Burke built, basically, right? This is Bulma.
Yeah, it's just a modal. When you say UI, you mean like what service is being used? Like that's just a div with some buttons in it. But it's using static web apps integrated authentication. It's basically easy auth.
It's which is really slick. That is a reason that we are using so some of the reasons we're using static web apps, starting with this easy auth is super easy. Like you basically just say require authentication, and you have these links in the code. I can bring that up. So like if we go to like where login, it's in the nav, I guess, shared. I always have to click around a bunch.
It's in the modal login if you're looking for the actual buttons.
Modal login, you're right, of course. So there's these links here that are like /auth /login /Twitter and post redirect. We didn't write any of that. That when you click on that, then it goes over to Twitter, authenticates. If you're already logged into Twitter, it'll just redirect you immediately. Otherwise, you go through their through their login flow, and then it redirects to the site. So it handles all that for us. And then we also have like auth login GitHub, and all those. Are we handling redirect on those?
Yeah, I've fixed all that.
Okay. All right.
I don't know. Do you have the latest changes, John? Have you pulled?
So this is. I thought so. I pulled this down from. So this is my .NET 8. So let me finish, I guess, giving my my progress report on .NET 8. So that was 2.5 megabytes that we saw here. And then my pull request, if I go to my pull request, that is, of all the things here, this guy here. So this is my running pull request. I was getting, well, I'll first show it. Okay, so now that was 2.5 for the last one on .NET 7. And when we first looked at this, we're like, it's cool, but like there's new features, there's performance improvements, there's new good stuff in .NET 8. But if it's a much bigger download, that's not cool. One neat thing here is it's got this loading indicator, which is kind of fancy looking. And it is, oops, I don't know if you can see that, 2.0 megabytes transferred.
So it trimmed out half a megabyte?
Half a megabyte.
That's not bad.
And then the resources on the old one was 7 megabytes. Now this is 5.7.
Wait, I wonder if can we trim out more? Seems like we should.
Probably, but there's I've been living this a bit, so you can trim more. And I've been balancing back and forth in the trimming. So the way you configure trimming is here. There's all these things, right? So by default in .NET 8, it will trim. And then you can go in and turn on some other stuff. So I said, enable time zone support, false. And the reason
we don't use that.
We don't use it, and it's actually required. Time zone support is like a big chunk of data that has to include. I did turn on the trim analysis, and then I also did invariant globalization because we're not doing like globalized string comparisons and all that kind of stuff, and that also trims out a chunk. So before I had more like aggressive trimming turned on, and I'm trying to balance, like trimming is cool because it makes for a small download, but your app has to still work. And so the thing I'm running into there is homepage. I was like, yes, this is so awesome. I rule. And then I go to a page in here, and that all looks awesome. The page actually works, but we're getting here. Let me bring another one in there. So the page works. Let me see if so, but my drag and drop is not working. And you can actually see in the console. This is also a thing that I get confused with. The browser tools are like, there's no dragger here, and they're always kind of moving stuff around here, and I'm like, why can I not see my console? There it is. Okay. So now we're getting errors here. This error says sortable is not defined. So then I was playing more with that. And I looked in two places. One is I looked in the sortable list component, and I like tried to add some stuff here, like that says don't trim this. But then I realized that it's not the sortable list that's being trimmed. It's actually the sortable component, which is declared in sortable razor. And here's like actually where I was up to. And then, and then you said, John, you're a silly person because I had forgotten to put it in here.
Right. So it's there now.
So it's there now. So this is what's currently on my machine, but still running this now, we're up to getting some JavaScript errors that there's like not an element. And we can maybe actually fix that. If that was the case, we can move to .NET 8 today.
Yeah, we can look at it. I mean, I know I've seen that error before. That's not new.
Okay, let's bring up this. I mean, it would be so. One of the things I like about .NET 8 is C# 12 support. You can get that working in .NET 7, but it's like it's built in on .NET 8, which is nice. Primary constructors is awesome. Okay.
So here's the thing. So let's look at this error together. So if you scroll up, and I'm going to have to move you over here so I can actually see this error.
I've done it already.
The error is, so you have two errors. One of them is failed to fetch because you're not running the API, I assume, or you're on 5000, not 4280.
Yeah, so that would be easy enough to fix.
Okay.
This is that
error not there. It says, it says cannot set properties of undefined. Okay, setting EL. That happens inside of that, trying to create that sortable. And if you look just above that, see there it says sortable -list -BEB9F.
Okay. Sorry, just real quick. We had a question. Is this code on GitHub? And yes, it is. I got the link right there.
So, and we should also talk about the sortable list because that got added to Blazor Fluent.
That's so cool. Yeah. So we did.
Vincent did that. And I think Vincent's actually like up for a job on the Blazor team. So come on, Blazor team. I don't know.
All right. Yeah, Vincent's awesome.
Good luck, Vincent. Yeah. So go back over to, let's see.
So, okay. So it's the element. And then is there a line in here? JS line 2.
Yeah. If you go there, though, it's going to take you into like minified JavaScript. So don't bother. But if you go to the actual file itself, so what you hit that ID, right? So what happened is that when it said document get element by ID, there's nothing there. So go back to the actual application itself where you have your developer tools open in the browser.
Oh, yep. Okay. Yep.
And then inspect the list and just make sure that it has the ID on it.
Okay.
Right, there it is, div sortable list.
It's sortable list -BEB9F. Okay, that's what you're saying.
That's what you got passed.
Can
you pull, John? Can you pull out any changes that you made from that sortable list file?
Yeah, I think I have. Let me double check.
Like the dependency doesn't look right. Not this one. This looks right.
Oh, this one here. Okay. All right, let's go. Okay.
And then go back to your JavaScript.
Yep.
So export function init ID and component. You're logging out the ID to make sure you have it. New sortable animation on update. That's all right. We're getting the ID. So you can save this.
Okay. Now, could we also do a check there and say if ID is not, basically if ID is null, like skip,
Well, you could, but your ID is not null because you logged it out. The question is just why. What you could do here is do like a, you can do like var, list equals document.get element by ID.
Mm-hmm.
And then you can pass that into the sortable function and log it out at the same time. So that way, like,
like right here, I can do
where that new sortable executes.
Yeah.
If that thing actually exists. Because my guess is what's happening here is that this code is firing before the list is actually even there on the page.
Okay. Exciting. Okay, so now I could log.
You just pass list in, yeah. And you can log, instead of logging the ID, just log out the list.
I love how it's indenting. And two space land. Okay.
You got a mix there. You got some 2, some 4.
Okay. Oops. Whoa, that was good. Okay. What is happening? Okay. What? Okay. I think that's good.
Yeah, and then just see what happens.
All right. This is we're doing it live. Okay. I do love the local storage. That is such a wonderful thing. Did that fix it? No. Okay, so we didn't get an error, but I'm not able to drag. Oh, I am. How? I'm actually not following. How did that fix it?
Because it's just a timing thing, I assume.
Okay.
I don't know why it fixed it, but go back to the home page. Yeah. While you're on the edit page, but go to the home page.
Okay.
And then you just click on the logo. It's the easiest way.
Oh, because I went to S.
Yeah. Why are you throwing an error now? Failed to fetch.
It's just because I'm running local. I'm not running in the 4280.
So add a link.
Okay.
Of course, you're in local storage. Yeah, it just failed to fetch again. I mean.
Oh, so this has only failed to fetch now at this point.
Yeah.
Semicolon.
I mean, take the log statement out and see if that even makes a difference. When I was doing this testing, you can still leave this like this, right? Just take the log statement out. When I was testing the sortable list, Blazor would just do this on occasion. It would just like render the element before, and I just sort of got to the point where I was like, I think this is just a mistake on the dev server. I don't think this is actually a thing. I think it's a problem with the JS interop. But when you actually publish the thing, this never happens. And
okay, well, let me figure out. I'm going to commit this and push it up to the branch, and we can see when it gets pushed live. Get changes. Let's check out my changes. So there were only changes there and adding it in. So yep. Okay, let's see if the magic thing happens. Generating a message. I found lately that these generated message are pretty long sometimes. It'll be like, write a whole essay for me. I'm like, going a little too hard there.
Why is it taking so... Whoa!
Look at all that. I mean, Yeah. Okay. I'm going with it because nobody will ever read this commit message. So
it looks good to me.
And we will push, and I'm pushing to my .NET 8 branch. So I do love this about, we'll see how fast the build is. I do love that about static web apps is that it does these, it automatically, so there's that. And then now as part of the build, it automatically provisions it out. But it does, it's got to do the full build. Let's check.
So while that's happening, John.
Yeah.
Go back to the pull requests.
Okay.
Sorry, all pull requests.
All pull requests. Okay.
If you go to the contains minor fit and finish fixes.
Oh.
And then scroll down to the, yeah, I guess it doesn't really matter. And just open that,
this guy here?
page. Yeah. And I've done some work here.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, I've done some work here to try to like just clean up and do some things that maybe aren't that exciting. My guess is, John, your internet's either slow or your dev tools have throttling turned on again, because it's really like taking a long time to load up.
Let's see. Oh, not that, not settings. Come on now.
Oh, your computer's a little bit sluggish too, so that could be it.
Yeah. Whenever screen sharing is a thing, definitely.
No throttling. Huh, interesting. All
it
right.
does have cache disabled.
So you can, yeah, it's fine. You can close out of this. The cache disabling only applies when the dev tools are open.
Okay.
So here I did a couple things. So first of all, I took the beta off of the logo.
Okay.
Right. So we're out of beta. And then there's things that you won't even notice. Like I applied a static height to this image in the banner so that the page doesn't like jump.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Yeah. And then if you put in a new link here and then go to the next page, you know, as per usual.
Okay. So this is your loading animation. I had also got a loading animation because of .NET 8. So we'll have to merge yours on top of mine and fix.
Yeah, that's fine. Merge yours, then I'll bring mine in. But you can see like, so the publish button up there on the right was like, I don't know, 25 pixels too low, right? It was just
okay.
down a little bit. So I fixed that. And then if you go to an actual published list.
Okay. Well, let me see. I don't know if we have.
I know one. If you go up to your URL and just put in John's links.
So not S, John's
dash links. I'll put this one in here for you.
Thank you.
Wait for it. I got to fix, so I'm working on this, but then I fixed this to where like none of it's editable anymore. And if you click on one, it should open in a new tab.
All right, let's do Wayfair.
John likes Wayfair. There he goes. Now, what's interesting here is that I figured out, I was like, why were we requiring the protocol on the URLs? Why did we do that in the original version? And I figured it out. The reason why is because what happens if you try to go to google.com from a link?
Oh, it's a relative link.
It's a relative link.
So then you've got to fix that.
Yeah. Well, the problem is that you don't know if the user, you know, for Google, it's easy. Just slap an HTTPS on the front. But for any other link, you don't actually know what the protocol is. You have no way of knowing. Yeah. Right? It should be HTTPS, but not all sites are. Right. And HTTP should redirect to HTTPS, but not all sites do that. Yeah. So I fixed it.
Okay, so you fixed it by requiring protocol when you log in?
No, I fixed it with something called a relative protocol. You familiar with this?
It's where you do //
That is correct.
I love those. Okay.
So if you do, chat, if you don't know what the protocol is, if you just do // as the protocol, the browser figures it out, and I don't know how. I don't know how that works.
Yeah, so we got the comment, HTTP is pretty much phased out at this point. It kind of is, but it's, like there are still like existing older links on the internet still out there. We really got it got pushed hard by Chrome, and then everyone was kind of like, I guess we're doing this now.
I feel like Google sort of did this, but HTTP still has its use cases, right? Like if you're not transmitting, in our case, you obviously want to be on HTTPS because there's login and a whole lot of other stuff going on. That's a given. But if all you're doing is displaying static read-only content to people, what's the value?
Mm-hmm.
That somebody can spoof your URL, maybe? I mean, I don't know, but
yeah, so what I've learned too that's interesting is HTTPS protects the content that you are sending in a post or whatever, and then it protects the information that's passed back to you. But the protection is just I guess one other thing I was going to say is it's also includes the entire URL. So like John's links. So if this was actually like John's evil plan, whatever, like that wouldn't be transmitted too, which is kind of neat. And query string and stuff like that. Okay, well this is awesome, and I think by now let's see if this finished building. Okay, finished building. So now let's see if this. So I'm trying to remember. We're hoping that this actually loads and works fine without errors in production. Okay, so now I will put in that. And we are looking to see, it looks like there's no error.
Yeah, you should be able to just drag and drop.
Okay. I think we're ready to move to .NET 8 then.
Let's do it.
Okay. So I partly wanted to do that because for working on APIs, I really like .NET 8 features and stuff. One of them is primary constructors. Have you looked at that? I'm a big fan.
No, I'm not a language wonk.
Okay, I'm happy to show. I am not, but this is one where it's like I can use the feature. It's really super useful. So, okay, so I'm going to merge pull request. This is crazy. We're on .NET 8. That's part of our go live plan. And then we can merge your stuff in, and then I guess we should write some APIs at some point. So now that is merged. Now I will go back into this, and I will go to main, and then I can pull main. And then I'll be ready to work on my API task list. Okay, I think so. That should be good. Local.
Yep.
And then I've been playing around back and forth with because of this, I'm going to run the Romania. Awesome. I've been to Romania a couple of times. I'm a fan.
I've only been to Bulgaria. It's not quite the same, but close.
Similar area. Yeah. The food is quite good. I'm a big fan of these foods.
Do you remember Simona, who used to be on the team?
Yeah.
From Romania. I think
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I don't think she lives there anymore. I think she moved to England or something.
So I've been to .NET Day in Romania. Andre, I'm curious if you were there, and maybe I met you in person. And if so, I'm bad with names and I apologize. Okay. So I think we're ready now to close all this stuff out and start move into a new branch. Close all tabs. Close all tabs. And we're going to make a new branch. And this is going to be called API updates. No. Redux. Okay, cool. So my task list, one thing is we need to authenticate. We need to set up delete. So some things on that list is, number one, we need to go into, I'm looking on one screen and okay, so we'll close all these guys up. We will go over to the API. in the API, do we have a
There is a
delete?
delete links already. Yeah.
So there is. So what we need to do is authenticate it. Because now,
Yes, you can't delete links you don't own.
I mean, it wouldn't be very friendly. Maybe we should just put a banner that says, please don't
Please
delete
do not delete links you don't
Yeah.
own.
Yeah.
The whole site operates on the honor system. There's no login.
Exactly.
It's a new security model.
Please be a good citizen.
We're just going to assume that everyone's a good person.
Yep. Okay. So I'm going to go somewhere in here. Above. Okay. So we have our response. And below our response, we need to get the client principal. So I'll say client principal equals, let me see, equals null. I'm going to start with the null, but I'm just declaring it. And then I'll say if, let's try this, get the client principal from the XMS header.
We're already doing this in another function. We should like abstract this into a helper.
We did talk about doing that. Yeah. So let's do that. Okay. So let me go over to where we're doing that in the other place. And yeah, you're right. We'll say that is in the save links, I think. Pretty sure, yeah.
Save links, and it's in get link bundles for user. It's in both places.
Oh my goodness. Okay.
See, because it's a lot.
Yep. Okay. So we will. So I'm going to say, or I could just do refactor. I can do refactor, extract method. I don't want to just, I want to put it in a shared place. Well, now look at that. That's not good.
Okay. I would just, you know what? I think you had it right. Like highlight it and then just tell Copilot, like, hey, can you extract this into a shared something?
Class? We don't have like a utility class, do we?
No, I don't think so. Like a utils.
Okay.
I think really though, it's just it's a model, isn't it?
Oh, so we could have like, I don't think we want to put it in our shared thing though. We don't need to send that down to the client.
No, that's right, because the util is just reading the header. So it's like a
let's call it, I mean, we could call it like client principal helper or something.
Or, you know, you could for a client principal, you could have a constructor that takes.
Oh, takes a header and returns.
Yeah, but that's a little goofy.
Yeah.
Chat, what's the right way to do this? What's the right way to, where would y'all put this? Because you could just put it in a utils class and that's all fine. And the other thing is, I don't want to overthink things. Extend method on rec.
The request could have a, but so then it's like it still goes like in a utilities.
So one of the things that I noticed, John and chat, from the last time that we built this is that there's certain things that I just over-engineered.
Yeah.
And like I did it the right way, right? But when you go back and you try to figure out what's going on, you can't. Because it's just, how do I say this? Clean, readable code isn't always the right best way to do something. Sometimes it's just a utils class that's clearly obvious what it does. Extension function?
I mean, you know, extension functions are nice. They're slightly cleaner, but they also can be a little bit, like you were just saying, can be confusing because you're like request.get principal. Is this part of the request? You know what I mean? Like, so it's like a magic thing. I kind of prefer if in a simple case, just have a method that you call it and it does a thing.
Yeah.
A utility.
I mean, a good example of how we've already done this in this app was that HTTP container class I created, right? It's creative and interesting in the sense of what it's actually doing. But if you're the dev that has to come along later, what kind of sense does that make to you, right?
Yeah.
You're like, why? You got to understand all this stuff. It's just making HTTP requests.
Yeah. I think, I mean, so this is interesting. It's kind of like.
Yeah, I agree with this. If it takes a lot of time to understand the code, it's overly complicated. This is exactly what I'm trying to say, right? Any senior dev should be able to look at the code and be like, I know what that's doing. If they can't, then they're either not who they say they are, or your code is too creative.
And we always have that, like, you look at your own code and you're like, why'd I do this? Like, this is too much, Okay, so here it's just a method in another class.
Utility, yeah.
I mean, the other option, just to keep bouncing around, is we could go into the client principal and we could have a method in here.
See, this is great because everybody in chat knows exactly what this is.
Okay, yeah, we're doing it. Okay, create new file. All right, and I think I don't want to call this principal. I want to call it client principal or utility.
Client principal utility.
Sure. We can rename it. Let's just do this. Okay, cool. All right, what are you doing? Oh, when I save it, is it not in the project? Save.
Oh no.
It's like, where do you want to save it? Okay. Sure. Put it there. Okay. That was interesting. I didn't expect that to happen. Okay. So now we'll go in here. I mean, this is
called principal utility and the file is called principal utility.
Okay. Fair point.
I think that's fine, right? And then it's clear that
it'll be working code, and then if we decide later we want to move it around or do something else, we can do that. Or someone will send us our first pull request. Actually, we have a pull request from Steve Sanderson. So
that's true. But chat, where are those? We thought y'all were going to write the app for us.
I mean, really? Yeah.
Okay. And you didn't. And I'm hungry. It has nothing to do with PRs. I just wanted to say it.
Equals, I don't know, principal. Yeah. Big client principal, and it requires a link bundle as well. Why does it require a link bundle? Why did I do that? Okay. Client principal utility. I think maybe, where is it? What is it getting from the link bundle? The user ID and the provider. Oh, because it's hashing. It's actually returning.
I actually don't think that you need this code in here. Right?
Yeah.
Not in this method, at least. You could have another method that's like hash, client principal utility.hash, but.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think we can, once we have the client principal, I think you're right. I think we can instead, so let's take that out. Let's take this out.
And if we're going by, like single responsibility, this thing shouldn't be, right? Get client principal just gets the client principal. It doesn't also do things it doesn't say it does. Yeah, by the way, also, don't tell anybody.
All right, so now I think we need to get the hashed. Where is it actually using that hashed stuff? In the link bundle. Oh, it actually it updates the link bundle directly. So I think we can say then like that. Right?
Yep.
Okay. So that's all cool. Yeah, and that makes sense because we don't need to update those in the other one. So, okay, we're making positive progress. So now here we can say, I could just copy and paste the code. I was going to like do the whole Copilot business, but I can just do that. We can go here. Okay.
And that hash code, because you are going to basically do that every single time, you can move that to the hasher itself.
Okay. Yeah, you're right. Okay, so it'll be the hasher can do this. Okay. So something like that. Let's go into the hasher. That's another, we are getting to a thing. The hasher is another kind of utility class, right?
Yep.
Sort of. So this will create a, so this is going to hash, here, let me, what is it's going to take, it's going to return, no, it's not going to return anything.
It is going to return. Let me look.
So what we did before is it takes a client principal and a link bundle and it updates it directly.
Right. It's going to return a username is all it really does. That's all it's doing.
Well, it also has, yeah, you're right. It returns a hashed username.
That's it.
Okay. So, so it takes a, no, user details. I'm a little, not sure what I want to do with this. Public returns a username, so a string.
Mm-hmm.
Username. And then it's going to takes a
username.
Takes a string username?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But it also needs the provider. Or no, I guess it doesn't. Okay. This function doesn't seem like it's doing much by the time.
It doesn't. It's not doing much, but it's, it's the kind of thing where it's a one-liner now, right? It's just hasher dot get hash username instead of newing up the hasher and.
Okay, I got it. Okay.
So then it's basically just those two lines down at the bottom.
These guys here.
Yeah.
And turn the second one. Okay, I see where you're going now. So return. And we could, this again, like I would clean this up later, but this will work. Right?
Yep.
Okay.
So then it would just be, I think it's just, of course, then it has to be static. Right? Otherwise, like, what's the value here?
Right. And then I don't know if we can do that.
You can't. Class has to be static, I'm sure.
Yeah. Why isn't the class static?
You're missing a bracket, I think.
Yeah. Is there a reason why we don't have a static class? That. And then, because it like does all this stuff in the.
Yeah, at this point, it's like
we're going down a rabbit hole there.
Exactly. Yeah, maybe we just back out of this. Okay. Just revert these changes.
I'm reverting everything in here. This is a play with on my own time thing. This, then we do want to that's interesting. Sure, I guess. But I was going to do that. And then link bundle. We don't have a link bundle here in delete. Oh, we don't need to do any of this in delete. I was thinking, sorry. Let's get rid of that. Let's go back into save. It's already there.
You do need to do that in delete, though, because you can't delete a bundle that you don't own. needs to
so
contain the hashed username. Delete
we do
where
need the hash username. Yeah. Okay. So check if get the hashed username.
from the client principal.
That's not it.
Hit enter again.
No.
So then it's just hasher.
Yeah.
Whatever.
I'm writing the ugliest of code. Okay, and then hashed username equals. Oh, yeah, okay, fine. That's not the thing, though. Yeah, hash string username. What's my error? Oh. Capital H, thank you. Yes, okay.
Got it.
Okay, wonderful. So now we could do this in the delete thing, because we don't know at this point if that delete exists in the database or whatever, right?
I mean, it doesn't matter. I think you can just what you can do is just issue the delete, right? Because the user's logged in, okay, they've requested a delete. And so we just ask for the delete on the database. We don't need to check to see if it exists. We don't need to do any of that. We just
when I did this before, I did something like I'm just checking this out here. I'm going to throw some code up here that I wrote previously. Hash username. See what you think of this. Okay. And then here I called this principal. So, why is that not good? Result.
What's result?
Result. So this actually went. So I did a separate thing. I did a query. Okay, so I said if result.any. I did it down here. So here's what I did. And I actually didn't get the client principal. Well, I did that here. So I'm doing a query. I'm saying go get the link bundle, and then I'm checking the hashed username there, if it exists.
So you get that you're making two queries. You're getting the link bundle, you're pairing it to make sure that they're authorized, and then you're issuing the delete.
Yes. I could do a delete where, but I think this allows us to say, like, return a good error message that it's unauthorized. If a delete fails, the delete could fail for a few reasons. It could be like some other, like, I don't know, database inaccessible or whatever.
Yeah, I think this is good, if nothing else, for logging reasons, so that you can tell App Insights, like, someone out here is trying to delete links that they don't own, because at that point somebody's abusing the API, right? Otherwise, to the user, it doesn't really matter, right? You know what I'm saying? Like, the only way that you'd even be in that scenario is if you got Postman opening or issuing deletes against link bundles you don't own.
Yeah. Okay. So I think this is good.
Will that work? Where's the delete?
The delete is, I was looking down here, delete item async.
Okay.
Oh, and that's part of why I did this too. And I actually wrote this a long time ago, and it's been like months since I did this. I partly did this to get the ID, because the delete method delete item async requires an ID. And so I did a query for two reasons. One, to see if it's owned, but also to get the item back so I can get the ID.
Okay, that makes sense.
That makes sense? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. System concerns don't matter to the user, but doesn't mean they're not important. Agreed.
Yeah. Yeah, that's fair. Like then we can do then we could do more monitoring. We could say like, hey, is somebody abusing this? Or if somebody says, hey, why was my thing deleted? We could go and look it up or whatever potentially. And then, but I do like the idea of being able to show, we at least have the information. We could return other error messages or whatever to the user. Like it'll bubble up with a failed or it'll be unauthorized or whatever. So that's good. I think also as part of, we need to test, of course. So let's test all at once. There's that. We do have, I think save is good, right?
Save is good in the sense that it will still work, but update won't work.
So I wonder if, okay. So what is the case? Okay, so update scenario. Let's walk through it. We post back. There's way too many comments in here, by the way. This is my one anti-pattern I'm seeing from using Copilot too much. It's like all the comments. Right. Okay. This is like ridiculous. This is like when people went mad with regions.
Oh, I remember those days.
Okay. Deleting code. Add the location header. Okay. Okay, so this is doing we're getting the item, we're hashing it. This is everything for saving. Now, what is the case? Do we need to do a separate query and say, does it exist? Or
you just overwrite it. You said,
we can just overwrite it. So if it exists and the username is the same, overwrite.
Correct. But what if it exists and the username is the client principal's null or doesn't match? Then what?
If it's null or doesn't match, then only if it doesn't match, right? Oh.
No, we can't allow people to update. Like if you go in and unauthenticated create a list, you can't change it. Like them are just breaks. Now we could talk about that flow and how to improve that.
Yeah.
But as is, because then anyone would be able to update any anonymous link bundle.
Okay, so we are in this case right here where we have a conflict on saving. Or we could detect, do we have all the information ahead of time to see if the username matches?
Yeah, you've got the client principal. So
we do.
What you need to do is basically the same thing you did in the delete, which is, do I have a client principal? Yes. When I query the database, does the hashed username match the link bundle ID that they're trying to update? Yes, then they can update it. Yeah. No, then they cannot.
Okay. So this, so I'm looking where we're at here. We've got all the stuff. Here we're doing, so we need to query first before saving is what you're saying.
What do you mean if your app is too cheap to run, just add Cosmos?
So
we're on the Cosmos free tier. We never get charged.
Yeah. Can you talk about that? Like Cosmos costs and free, and what do you get for free?
Yeah. So the Cosmos is pricing is on what's called like an RSU, I think, restricted. No, it's not restricted stock unit. It's an anyway, it's the way that they measure is essentially on like reads and writes and things like that. So that aside, because it's really hard to figure out how much you're gonna have to pay. It's on how much you use it. There is a free tier of Cosmos CD. Everybody gets one of these. So you get one free database RDUs, I think. Yeah. And I'm not going to try to explain that because it's not easy to understand. Okay. But if you have the free, like we do, then you get a certain number of collections for free. And you get I think you get maybe it's a 400, Chuck, on the throughput for free every month, which is a lot. It sounds like not a lot, but it actually is a lot. But the performance sucks. Does it?
I don't know. I mean, maybe I think I think it's ideal for the case we're doing. We're saving small bundles. We're not doing huge amounts of processing, right? Like even in normal use, how often are people actually clicking save or delete or whatever?
I mean, Cosmos DB is a lot of things, but slow ain't it.
Yeah.
Chuck, I'm curious if you've had experience with that. Again, for our purposes, like we'll never get even close to having enough data in this thing for this to be a problem.
Okay, so where we're at? Okay, yeah. So like here,
20,000 records. Okay, yeah.
Yeah. So there you go. Yeah, if you're doing, I mean, at that point, yeah, you do need to pay for it. And I think too, Cosmos, one neat thing it does is like geographic, like redundancy and all that stuff, right? Like, so it's I don't know.
I mean, there's so much you can do with it. I mean, it's Cosmos DB can be so fast, but yeah, Chuck, to your point, I just want to validate. Depending on what you're trying to do, it's not cheap necessarily, right? Like at some point, you are paying for this like globally distributed NoSQL solution. So yeah, I mean, I love it too, but you're exactly right. Like, I mean, this is true. As somebody wrote this post, like Firebase is a great solution too, right? And Firebase is also free, but at some point you will hit a threshold with that thing where your costs will just skyrocket. And there's tons of posts about this, right? Like when it gets serious, when the amount of data and reads and writes you're doing are serious, you start paying.
Yeah.
Not in our case. In our case, it just won't work.
I think this is great. Like, you know, like you can always like here's the thing where growth matters, and then you can dial in costs later on most things. You know, you can really optimize the heck out of stuff. You can cache things. I was working on something recently, like I do behind the scenes stuff for the .NET blog where we do validation and stuff, and there was something where we were calling something. Our commits took a while because it was running a check, and it was hitting an API that was doing all this validation. I'm like, let's just cache all this stuff in a CSV list. You know what I mean? Like, caching, you can scale like crazy with that. Okay, let me get back to what I'm doing here because, okay, so.
I got to eat. My blood sugar's dropping.
Yeah. Okay, so how do we want to, we can query first, or we could hit a conflict, and then because do we have all the information ahead of time to see if it matches? We already have the hashed username. So what I'm wondering is if we can do this in one shot, or if we have to, like most of the time, we're not going to get a conflict. If we get a conflict, can we say, okay, well, it doesn't matter, overwrite, and we'll have the ID and all that?
No, we just need to know that the user owns the list.
Okay.
That's it. That is the sole requirement here. They have to own it. Same with delete. Can't delete something you don't own. Can't update something you don't own.
So I think we can say at this point, I guess what I'm trying to say is before hitting the database, we can already check if the user owns the thing, right?
How?
Oh yeah, you're right. Okay. Okay. So I guess you're right. I'll just copy from here. Get the document, and I can basically say, in this case, I also need to say, no. So I basically read the link.
Yeah, and also here, John, I don't think you're checking the username, right? You have to select top one where the vanity is equal, yes. But you also have to select it where the username equals the username.
So I'm doing that instead in the code here because I'm reading the link bundle, and then I'm checking if the link bundle.
Oh, okay. I think you're doing it there. Okay, so you could do it in the select. You could do it later on. I guess it doesn't matter.
Yeah. What I found too, and it again, I like messed with this a few months ago, but it was a lot easier for me to write code and debug code in C# than it was in my Cosmos query. You know, if it was not getting what I expected, it was more painful. Okay, so I'm going to do the exact same thing here so we can get you off to lunch. So let's go bump. And then I can say, why don't we have vanity URL? Do we need vanity URL? Yes. So vanity URL we were getting here. Why don't we have vanity URL?
You do.
We do, so because we already validated it. Oh, we're just using link bundle.vanity URL. We're directly reading it in there, so we have it there. So let's go with. I'll just do vanity. Yeah. Okay, and then we need a container, and over here I had a container from.
It's actually below. It's below your cursor.
Because we already, yes. Right there. So I can do, and we had partition key and all that. Okay. So let's move that there. And then let's check if result.any. Okay. So validate, check if the link already exists and the username, not the owner. Okay, that looks good, right?
I have no idea.
Okay, this is saying that it found, when we did the query, the link bundle exists and the result user ID is not no, that's not right. And the hashed, so what we need to check instead is the hashed username. Okay. And the user hashed. No, didn't help. Okay. Okay. So we need a hashed username. So get the hashed username. Copy this from here. So this is this. So we could actually, yeah. So it's just if result.any. And we'll start with this code. Okay, so we've got the hashed username. We have the principal. We already have client principal, so we'll change that to client principal. Or we'll change this up here.
It's so much code, I can't.
Oh, okay. Well, okay, so this is client principal. I'm trying to get by with some copy and paste. But yeah, I do realize it's jumping around. Okay, so now we have a client principal, and then we need to check if, so here this is saying, we have a hashed username, and we need to compare that with, okay, so this is saying the case where we have the hashed username matches or the hashed username doesn't match, or the provider doesn't match, because there are two things that both have to match, right?
Yep.
So this we can say is unauthorized. Now, the one other thing is we need to say, will this automatically, we need to also say if or the case where it's null, right? If the result user ID is null. If I can actually do that up. Oh, that's fine here. If it's null and it's hung, which is awesome. There it is. Or okay. Now I just need to look at what my response object is, and I think we're good to go. And response doesn't exist. Okay, we need to create one. Okay, what I'm going to propose, because we're running late and it's lunchtime and all that, is I get this working, we compiling, and then I'll commit it, or I'll push it to a pull request, and I can validate it offline, and we can check it out.
Yeah, if you can validate it, then I'll validate that it works from the
client and everything.
From the client, yeah.
Okay, I think at this point it's building. And then I also have some work to do to remove to dedupe some code, because now we have that utility.
Yeah, it feels like there's a lot of code in these files. And is it me, or is that?
Okay, what I have found that adds to the length of the code, like number one, we can clean up some of the code in here because of C# 12 features. We can use some better dependency injection. For instance, like there's some little stuff here to clean up. I have found that Cosmos code is a little verbose because I'm using the whole. I don't know. Yeah, that's something to look at. I think too we can streamline our response writing because we have a lot of repetitive stuff to write. Like we keep repeating this stuff over and over.
Yeah.
Right. So we could create a response utility sort of thing that just says like takes a status code and an error message. And
right. Yeah.
So there's definitely some cleanup, but we have now, we're checking for the cases for save and delete, and I think that'll be good. So I'll push that up and validate in the pull request. And
one of the things, John, on like cleaning up the code that I learned when I was working at Telerik was that they had this like pattern that they would use where in the main method, okay, so in any, for our, save links, right? That's your main, that's what get executed. And then they would take all of the logic and they would basically group it, and they would say, get client principal would be its own function, right? And then get hash user is its own function, and then validate, and they just broke it out into smaller functions. So the main function is just a bunch of function calls. Have you seen 100%? This? Yeah.
So I totally agree on that. And partly I ran into this when I tried to write unit tests here, and it totally failed because it's really hard to unit test functions. Like a lot of the things in functions are not designed to be unit testable. And what I saw then was, in the pattern I saw other people doing, is basically to create functions. Your Azure function calls into your own methods and write unit tests around those methods. So I guess what I'm saying is, by doing what you're saying, it would also make it a lot more testable.
Yeah.
Which would be nice.
And again, I'm not the expert. I'm the first person to write spaghetti.
Well, yeah, hard. So hard. What I saw, and some of that gets better with .NET 8, but Azure functions are difficult to unit test. They just are because I'll share my screen again, and then we'll send you out to lunch. Part of the reason is because this, right? Like this is designed to have like this HTTP trigger. It's designed to have HTTP request data. There's like this stuff that gets passed in, and to write unit tests around that was not easy. Like these are not mockable. They're like concrete types. They're not written using interfaces. Those are all things that make it really difficult to unit test. So anyways, I'm 100% with you on that. And I like a pattern, a thing a lot of people have told me is you really should be able to see like your methods. These are pretty similar to like MVC, controller actions. And people would say like one page, like your code should fit in a page,
Yeah.
Like, and this is page down, page down, page down, page down. This is a lot.
Yeah. It feels like a lot, but that doesn't mean it's not right. I get the same feeling on the client side in the link bundle details file. Mm-hmm. Like if you go in there and you look at that code, it's just like, it's so long. And whenever I see that, it's just like, why is there so much code?
Well, I mean, okay, so there's your UI, like all this stuff. Now, what people do then is you can move the C# code to a separate code behind. And then that can also make it a little more testable. I have the Blazor extension, which can do that too. We won't do it here, but you can basically there's a thing in here where you extract, I don't know, there's a thing in the Blazor extension to do that, like move the class to a code behind. I think it is a good stopping point. I will push this up. I'll do some refactoring testing offline and we'll pick it up. I think we're getting super close now to deploy. It's very exciting. And we're on .NET 8.
Yeah, really all we need to do is test those two endpoints. I need to merge those fit and finish changes. And I think that essentially we can start talking about popping that database over. Mm-hmm. But I also got to go find a place for this application to live because right now it's running under my subscription. So I got to go start filling out paperwork to try to get an actual site in Azure.
Nice. That sounds fun. Okay. I will play our thanks for watching and I'll play some music and
we'll I'm out, John. I'm not hanging around to talk. I'm just kidding. Chat. Good to see you.
All right. And we're out.